Today I want to talk about 4 tips to heal from codependency, because luckily attachment styles and codependency is an expression of an attachment style, which is more extreme spectrum of anxious attachment, is something we can change throughout life. So codependency is really a term, as I said, for the more extreme range of anxious attachment where we really fear being abandoned or being alone significantly. We often have wounds of abandonment, rejection, or feeling left out, or our needs not being met or acknowledged, and we didn't feel seen or important, and our boundaries were violated. We learned that to be safe and accepted, we had to negate our own boundaries and ignore our needs and focus on accommodating others. It could be insignificant attachment and not just parents. It could have been other key family members. It could have been close friends in our teenage years. It could have been anyone that we had a significant attachment with that did this, that then caused this anxious attachment in us. Codependency is an attachment wound. And while the self-love movement is very trendy, it's not very useful. Because we're social creatures and healing actually happens in a social vacuum. So being kind to yourself, listening to your own needs and boundaries is really essential to giving yourself kindness. However, it alone will not heal codependency. The constant adapting to somebody else or being hyper-focused on others makes you abandon yourself again and reinforce the story that you are not worthy. You likely learned that you had to accommodate others and deny parts of yourself to meet your minimum needs. So there is a reason for your behavior here. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you because you're codependent. You have a functional response to a dysfunctional environment, and as a child you had no choice as you were dependent on others to survive, but now you're not dependent on them in the same way. So the same strategies that worked back then doesn't work anymore. You can walk away now and be okay. You can find new people to spend time with. You can remove yourself from a toxic environment, which you couldn't as a child. So those strategies made sense as a child to please, to porn, it's called stress response, to try and be safe, but it doesn't make sense anymore because it's hurting you and harming yourself. The self-help nonsense, often as I call it, that you can't be loved by somebody else unless you love yourself first, really inhibits healing, and we know that it's outwardly wrong. Does a baby love itself when it's born? No, of course it doesn't. Does that mean a mom can't love the baby? No, of course it doesn't. The baby learns what love is through mom showing the baby love, which is basically safety, attunement to its needs, and responding to its needs consistently. The baby learns that it's safe and loved. So love is a learned social experience, essentially, and that means you don't have to love yourself to be loved by somebody else. We actually learn what love is through an experience with another loving, safe attachment bond. And I think that's really important to understand. It's a socially learned construct. So you don't need to love yourself first to be loved by others. Let's debunk that nonsense. Someone who's not had a safe and secure attachment, who's never experienced love, can't just give it to themselves. They have to be given, like I said, a social experience of love. And therefore the idea of, just love yourself is not useful for people who don't have that framework. I know the culture of independence has been telling us that we don't need anybody else. And, the more independent, the better. We just need to love ourselves. And this is just a massive lie, as really is proven by all the research, neuroscience, and understanding we have on the brain. It's the opposite. We flourish when we need others, when we collaborate towards common goals with others, when we show mutual care for others and they for us, and look out for each other's needs and boundaries, and we support each other. That's where we flourish. Social isolation is used as torture for a reason. So healing is social. And let's embrace that and work with our biology instead of against it with all this self-help. Let's look at the 4 tips that you can do to heal codependency. The first one I look at with people I work with is boundaries. Knowing and feeling secure expressing our boundaries is really the foundation for safety. If we have no sense of where we begin and end, no sense of our own needs and capacity, no sense of what feels safe for us, then it's hard to navigate the world and feel safe. So we become over-reliant on others to provide that safety because we don't trust ourselves. If you have codependency, you likely did not learn that your boundaries matter and that you're valued and respected just for who you are. So this could be a very new experience that even feels a bit strange to begin with, but like any skill, it's learnable, and it might be the most important skill you'll ever learn. I practice this with my client, and you can do this with a trusted friend. It's really to learn to control the space around you physically, controlling and asserting your boundaries. You can do a simple exercise with a loving friend or therapist where you stand apart, and as a therapist or friend work towards you, you control the space and tell them when to stop. If they come too close, you tell them to move away. And this exercise is about you trying to not caretake how they might feel, but keep tuning into yourself, how it feels, and when it sends not right, where do you feel it in your body? And as you do that and practice it again and again, you become more tuned to your body telling you something is not right. You learn to actually act on it and assert that boundary, and you slowly learn to be less outwardly focused on caretaking them and turn inwards to notice your own needs and boundaries so you can assert them. So that's why the next part we go into now, the next skill, is internal focus. It's widespread and very common for people with codependency to be hyper-focused on the outside world, and they're hypersensitive and attuned to other people's needs to ensure that they will not get rejected. Because of this hyper-external focus, the codependents often lack an internal focus toward their own needs and boundaries, and are even unaware what they are. To regain balance, the practice should now be to notice your own emotions and sensations, to identify your boundaries and needs. Practice what makes you feel present with yourself. This could be practices such as yoga, meditation, 5 rhythms dancing are excellent ways to become embodied and start noticing yourself when your focus becomes too outwardly focused. They will drag you between your minds, need to focus externally and think about what everybody else needs, wants, and thinks about, and bring the focus back to you and what you need right now. And as you get better at this, you will also be able to identify your needs and boundaries much faster and easier. And that's the next step that you will have to then practice. I practice this all the time with my clients, and it's great to see them come out of their people-pleasing tendencies and proudly, kindly, and assertively expressing their needs really clearly. They tell me it's one of the most empowering things that they've ever done. So let's look at secure bonds with others, which is the crucial other element of social healing again. As I mentioned earlier, healing is social. Even if self-help is trying to make you believe that it's all about you. Individuality has failed us on so many levels, but I'll leave that for another video. Who we associate with frequently really determines the outcome of our attachment style and self-worth. So choose wisely. Love is learned. So if you want to heal, this is likely the most crucial part of the 4 steps. Find or spend time with people that fulfill these criteria, and you will slowly develop a secure attachment, high self-worth over time. So the criteria to look for is 1. Care and respond to your needs. Look for people who really care and respond when you express your needs. 2. Respect and encourage your boundaries. Look for people who respect your boundaries but also encourage them when you express them. 3. Acknowledge and accept your perspective even if they disagree. Look for people who don't try to make you feel wrong or overpower you, but can disagree with you and yet acknowledge your point of view. 4. Support you when needed. You've probably been used to always being the one supporting other people. Look for people who give you mutuality and return that support when you need it and are happy to be there and listen to you. 5. Accept you fully. Acceptance and agreement are not the same thing, so remember they can disagree with you, but still accept you for who you are and your opinions, which is crucial for learning to feel safe and good about ourselves. 6. Notice and encouraging your strength. Some people bring out the worst in us, some people bring out the best. Spend time with people who see the best in you and encourage the strength in you. Those are the people you want to be around. Number 7, spend time with people who make you feel safe and calm. So notice how you feel when you're around people. And 8, spend time with people who make you feel seen and supported. Again, notice how you feel. The more time you spend with people like this, and the less time you spend with toxic people, the more secure and worthy you're gonna feel. Our strength are in our social networks, and once we know we have a tribe of secure support, we become less dependent on a single person, and so the anxiety and codependency become less. Let's look at the last step that you can do to start healing this codependency, which is self-compassion. That's a part that people often refer to as self-love, but it's only a small part of the overall healing. The final piece I would say get a journal If you don't have one, go buy one because it's super helpful. Self-compassion consists of self-kindness and recognizing our common humanity, that we are not alone and we all make mistakes. Self-kindness requires you to spot that internal bully who's putting you down and criticize you and say stop. Another good somatic boundary exercise is putting out your hand and say stop. It feels very empowering and will teach your body about the boundary as well, so it becomes somatically, bodily integrated. Now, then rephrase that inner bully, the harsh self-critic, into a statement of self-kindness. If you notice yourself saying, oh, I'm such a fool for going back to my narcissistic ex, thinking he should be different this time. This is judgmental and harsh and doesn't help you heal or change for that matter. Judgment doesn't help us change, it does the opposite. Shame inhibits us and makes us more likely to go back to bad behavior. Try to change that to a kind statement instead, such as, I made a mistake because I'm still in pain and I crave and want closure. And because I'm kind and presume others are the same, I'll remember to end all contact with this narcissistic ex because I really deserve to be treated with kindness. Can you see how that's a much more kind statement? That's more likely to facilitate change as you start feeling you're actually worthy of good treatment. Try to say those two different statements to yourself and even feel the difference. Then sense how they feel different in your body as well. The first one made my body tense. The second one made my body relax. Both your mind and body listen and respond to how you speak to yourself constantly, which has a considerable impact over time. Remember, criticism is not your voice. It was a voice given to you by somebody else. You're growing up, you were given, you're given a garden, which means, you don't have to keep all the flowers and plants that you were given. Instead, if some of them no longer serve you, you can pull them up and plant new ones. It's your garden after all. So don't forget to subscribe and also get notifications to sign up for that. If you want one-to-one coaching, learn about the online program to heal codependency, and check out the link in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.